Hi everyone, just recently finished painting these 7 figures here. I intend to use them in the game of Congo. They are a pack from Wargames Foundry, Zanzibari characters. Now, Wargames Foundry do produce packs specifically for the game of Congo, and the game of Congo does require characters, and some of these figures do get used in the boxes that Wargames Foundry supply. However, this particular pack isn't directly linked to the game of Congo. So there are figures here that aren't represented in the game of Congo or in the rulebook, which are perfectly usable as such, and I'll explain a little bit more about that in a moment, and about my thoughts about how I'm going to use these figures. But I already had painted up 2 of these figures, this figure here and this figure here, that I'd purchased in the one of these other packs specifically intended for the game of Congo. This figure here is represented as the diplomat in the rule book, and this figure here as the emir. Now, I don't think you should get too fixated over what character represents which character, what figure represents which character in the rule book, because I don't think some of the choices that Studio Tomahawk have made are particularly appropriate. I mean, for instance, the diplomat, the figure they've chosen is tooled up with a double-barreled shotgun and a very threatening kind of curved dagger and so on. Doesn't look particularly diplomatic to me. I would tend to seek out a slightly less aggressive looking kind of figure to represent my diplomat in games. And in fact, Studio Tomahawk probably aren't that kind of fixated on it either, because I noticed when they introduced when they released the campaign game booklet, they introduced some new characters, one of them being an archaeologist, and they've got a photograph of exactly the same figure, exactly the same sculpt as they use for the scientist in the original rulebook. So all these things are interchangeable, and I'm just going to go with ones that I think look appropriate for the role they're representing on the table. And also, over the years, I mean, these figures go back well before the release of Congo, and they might even go back to the time when Wargames Foundry sold their figures individually rather than in packs. But they've certainly been kind of rebranded over the years, you know, particularly after the release of Congo, when they started putting them in boxes to represent the various characters in Congo. But a lot of their Darkest Africa range, not just the Zanzibaris, but the Western explorers in particular, are directly referenced, you know, to historical characters. There's a very nice sculpt of one particular Western adventurer who was originally described as being the explorer Speak, and he's clearly copied on a photograph of the actual explorer with a kind of multi-pocketed waistcoat that he wore. And in this particular group of figures, there's one here who is most certainly meant to represent a historical character, and that is Tipu Tib, who was a very kind of powerful and prominent Zanzibari trader who gave a lot of assistance to the explorer Stanley, and at one point in his life was given a kind of an administrative area to control on the eastern edge of the Belgian Congo. Based on a historical character, and possibly even modelled on a photograph of Tipu Tip that I'll put up and show you. So basically what I'm saying is you can mix and match these figures and use whatever figure you want in the game. Don't get too kind of hung up on it. And in that particular case, there are certain figures here that they do use in the rule book. They do show in the rule book. There are other figures here that they don't show at all. Did I actually say that during all this rebranding as well, they have relabeled this group? Originally it was DA20. I may have said this already. Forgive me if I'm repeating myself, because I have tried to make this video once before and the camera packed up halfway through. Yeah, so this was originally DA20, but it is now sold as DA041, which is another indication of how the things have been repackaged over the years, rebranded. A lot of Foundry sculpts they kind of withdrew, and then they've slowly kind of gone back through their old molds and things and reintroduced things. That's probably why that happened. But anyway, this figure here in the book is meant to represent the sheikh. To my eye, he doesn't look anything like a sheikh. I mean, I would have picked him probably as the sheikh, but he is far more appropriate to use, I think, as the trader, with a little kind of capuchin monkey on his shoulder that can, pickpockets and spy out kind of intelligence that the trader wants to know. He reminds me a little bit of the monkey in Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark, that can spy on people for his master. And in a similar vein, this figure here isn't represented in the Congo rulebook, but to my eye, he looks ideal to be used as the character, the Brute, rather than the figure that they actually portray in the rulebook. I mean, the Brute's description out of the book is slave traders or Zanzibari nobles were often accompanied by a bodyguard of Arab or Indian origin, intimidation and violence being a legitimate business practice in Zanzibar. A massive sword is a strongly persuasive argument in any negotiation, and this chap has a massive sword, unlike the figure that they actually have in the rulebook, so I would have thought is ideal. This one here is portrayed as the slaver in the rulebook, and again, I mean, that's how I'm going to use him. He would be ideal as a slaver. So yeah, as I say, all in all, I wouldn't get fixated on using the, insisting on having the figures that they portray in the book, particularly as you can get quite nice figures from North Star as well. But anyway, I'll show you all these figures in a little bit more close up. So let's zoom in a little bit and see if I can get the focus working. Might be necessary to there we go. I think he's in focus, hope so. Right, so this figure here is referred to as Said bin Abedi. As far as I can tell, not an actual historical character, and again, he doesn't actually appear as one of the 6 characters in the rulebook. So he's just going to be a kind of generic figure. Can use him as a Bellucci, maybe, something like that. So nothing particularly notable about him. This figure here, I'm trying to get it to focus. There we go. Is Abedi himself, so the father of Said bin Abedi. Once again, not actually represented in the rule book, and not, as far as I can tell, a historical character, but I'm going to use him as the sheikh rather than the figure that they actually use in the rule book, for reasons I'll explain in a moment. He's got quite a nice sort of long coat on, so I've sort of tarted him up a little bit and made it look like it's got a kind of silken woven pattern in it and so on. Made him look fairly kind of prestigious, so that he's a good representative of a sheikh. This figure here, I've already got a model of, because he comes in the box set specifically meant to represent the Zanzibari column from War Games Foundry in Congo, and he is the diplomat. As I say, already got a figure of him, and I've never been particularly happy that it's a very suitable figure to represent a diplomat. So I think I said a moment ago, because of his so well armed and so on. So I'm probably going to source another figure to use as a diplomat when I find one that looks a little bit more suitable. This is the figure that is meant to be the Emir, as I say, and he actually was originally portrayed as Tipu Tib, perfectly fine as the Emir. And again, I've already got a version of him, and again, he's wearing a kind of fairly affluent looking coat, so I've painted that with a sort of silken kind of thread in it as well. This one here is, again, as I say, much better to use as the trader rather than the sheikh. Described as one-eyed Abdul in this particular pack, and therefore clearly not meant to represent a historical character. This is the one that I intend to use as the brute. I think I said Mutagamoa, who was, I have found a reference to a person of that name on Wikipedia, so possibly a historical character, but unlikely to be a representation of his true likeness, as I doubt there are any photographs of that particular person extant. And finally, this one here, who is Kibonge, if you go by the description in the character pack, or he is the slaver if you want to use him in Congo. So clearly with the whip, perfectly suitable to use as the slaver. And there we go, that's the entire group of figures. Make a nice little addition to my Congo armies. Thanks very much for watching. Bye for now.